So right now we're doing a wee bit of this, you guys. It's just whatever rambling. Someone's asking for some for JP and I want to help them out. But it's good to get some things out the way, right? Or clarify. And I've been doing this for a long time. I've been playing fighting games for at least well over 8 years. It's not my first genre I really got into, but I might say I'm pretty okay. I'm decent. I've been able to at least place top 8 once for every fighting game I've ever bothered to take serious. You know, the main ones being Tekken, BB Tag, then Street Fighter, and then Guilty Gear Strive. I got top 100 for Evo with Potemkin, so there's that. So I am fairly competent, and I've been teaching fighting games for at least well over 2 years. I have a couple of people under my belt that have at least gotten to a high rank, or shit like that. You know, they've done things that are noteworthy, right? So to say that I can't do my job decently is, you know, I can do it okay, right? But one thing is, I do want to start off is sometimes the thing is, obviously, like, some people are struggling with character, is getting comfortable with their buttons, right? Sometimes things are weird, and that's why I say it's go into training mode and figure out what's your stuff. I'm going to explain how JP works in a second, right, for our good fellow here. But yeah, there's just some things, like I was trying to play Jamie like he was Luke, and there are certain games where you can play characters in a certain way. Like in Tekken, if you know the fundamentals, you can carry over the same thought process with everybody else. Tekken's just that kind of game. Same with anime fighters, right? If your bread and butter combo with square, triangle, circle, you know, ABC, you could do that with the entire cast, no problem. Just how you approach situations is different, and it's much easier to get that. Whereas games like Street Fighter, hell no. Down medium, look at this. This is nothing like Luke or Jamie's down medium. Like, the buttons are all different. Like, they have similar rules for sure. Like, you understand? Like, it's like anime fighters. Lights are lights, you know, mediums and heavies, right? Same rule, but the way they are used and how they take up space, completely different. So that's something that can be very, you know, off-putting. And then second thing, also, I think I realized I'm in the wrong type of training room, because someone might eventually interrupt me, but I will speak as I go to a better training room, is, yeah, it's trying to find your type of character. And I guess always pick who you like, pick who's cool. And in my opinion, if you really, really like a character, you'll learn them, right? You just will. You know, like, for example, I'm really good with grapplers.
Ghost of Solomon. Yeah, his normals are somewhat limited.
And there's a reason for that, right? Like, there's always a reason for everything, right? So I want to say is that there are characters that'll suit you better, for sure. But
Ghost
never
of
be
Solomon.
dissuaded because a character,
Yeah, I like him,
just might not be your cup of tea. Let me really sink that in. Like, if you really like a character, you will get better with them. There is no ifs, ands, or buts. But getting back to what I said with Geef, I actually was really natural. Sometimes you be like, oh man, there's like what I like to call 3 categories, right? You are naturally just good with them, like the character, or you like the way they look, personality, or whatever. And then there's just, they actually fit your game plan, what you're really trying to do. And these can be very different things, right? Like whether someone's an all-rounder, rushdown, unique, gimmick character, a zoner, you know, and even then, okay, how do they do their game plan? And that can be different across the board, right? And again, example, Geef. I was naturally gifted with him. I really liked the look. I liked the strength. I didn't mind that he was slow, something that most... But then in the long term, I didn't realize, oh, really at the core of what grapplers are is they're read heavy, you know, that gameplay part. And that's where I'm like, that's why I will always secondary grapplers. You know, it's very rare that you get a trifecta. You get what I'm saying? Same with like JP is like, oh man, I like the way this character looks. And then you see like, you know, this cool setup stuff. But then you realize like, oh, he's actually a zoner. You're thinking like, you want to play him like, I don't know, like that, like rush down and maybe some stuff and better buttons. You don't really like the cane. Me personally, I saw the cane. I'm like, I don't really like the cane or how to do stuff with it, right? But I'll deal with it. He scratches 2 of my things, right? As long as the character has one of the requirements, you'll be fine, right? So I do want to mention that. But a good thing that can help you, besides like look, is easy, right? If so characters look whatever, that's a given. Anyone can do that. You don't have to tell anyone. A second one is like a playstyle, and I highly recommend Corey Gaming's video on like the different types of playstyles. And long story short, it's in 3. There's a technical way to say it, but it's the mind, body, and the heart. The body, it refers to, is the easiest one that everyone thinks you're required to be good at video games, and particularly fighting games and shooters, is basically reaction times and execution. That means like how consistently can you keep doing this without dropping it? That's like, you know. And of course, like, oh, let's say Luke presses button and then I just always jab, interrupt. Like, reactions, they're very easy. Guys can go to a site called, I forgot, speed.net. I'll put it in the link below, but it's called speed.net. Or you can just put internet, or just speed test. You can just go to speed test and you'll find it, and you'll find your average. And basically, if you guys watch the video, there's like a flow chart. You guys see it in video games and stuff. You know, there's like a triangle. There's like strength, speed, intelligence. It's literally that. And then the last one is the mind. And those people Like, a good example I definitely have in mind are people who love to do training mode. Like, we love numbers, we love all this kind of crap. Like, we're the kind of people that could sit hours in this insane asylum as room and be like, yo, that shit was fucking fun, right? Or that like to look at stuff very tactically, right? Like, we like to approach things in numbers or statistics and shit like that. That's what, like, a brains player is, right? And that necessarily doesn't have to be just numbers. Maybe you're just very tactfully, you know? You're the kind of person that doesn't like to do random or live by the moment. And then the other one is what we call, like, the heart. The heart is the opposite of, like, the mind, right? You love mind games, baiting, you know, feeling the moment, right? You know, and it's okay. I think, and in some aspect, everyone at least shares all these attributes, right? The weakest you can get is a 1. You know, it's like a number, right? Like 1 to 5, and it should add up. You should be like a 9. So spread it out. So let's say you find your reaction time is average. That's like a 3. That means your other points can get distributed, and that's where you can figure it out, right? So you can figure out more or less where you stand. And that's why I say go do that. And why do I say do this? Like, okay, why? Then you can go, because the thing is, you can pick character you like. Pick a Shoto. Like I said, pick Ryu, Luke, whatever, because they'll help you learn the game. And then third, pick a character that suits you. And if a character suits you, but you just straight up don't like him, like say on paper Luke suits you, but you just don't like anything about how he sounds or looks, then you can't. That arguably matters more. Like, unless you're playing competitive, I don't really see that much of a reason. I mean, heck, I play competitive and I don't pick characters I fucking don't like that suit me. Like, I'm sitting here, like, I don't like Cammy's look or design at all, but I'll pick her because I like her new design more. But I'm just not that big of a Cammy simp. So it's like, I'll begrudgingly use her, but not that much. Because Cammy suits me like a motherfucker, right? It matters more that you like the character that you look like to me, as long as the character's bearable, it's fine, right? Like, Ryu is like very, he's inoffensive. He's like, okay, right? Like, Luke, he should be, but people don't like his young boy, you know, Luke or ninja fucking Luke Paul looking face, right? So they're like, yeah, you know, I can get into the negative. As long as they're not negative, it's fine. But anyways, I forgot where I was going with this. I know it's a very long-winded thing about how getting good with characters and picking yada yada. I mean, I'm right, dude. So yeah, that's the whole thing I want to talk about, discussing at least picking your character, how to actually, you know, and it's a long process finding out what your is. It is a motherfucker, right? But at the end of the day, what really matters is that you have fun. Play how you want. That's the final thing I can say is, it's okay. Like, it's okay to incorporate everything. It's okay to lab a little bit. It's okay to do offline content, and it's okay to play ring. Not too much. I don't reckon too much. And play long sets, maybe. And more importantly, play against characters. I'll tell you this much. It is okay to not have to play with characters you cannot stand. Playing Mad is not a great way to learn. Deal with those characters once you've labbed a bit, you're more comfortable with your character, and you've gotten way more used to the game. So that way, when they hate you with stuff, you're not as mad. You're like, okay, cool. I get it. Drive Impact doesn't work on Kimberly. And then you can, it also helps because then you develop a habit. Well, I mean, there's a good way and a bad way to develop a habit. Like, it's a good way because then if you develop a habit of using Drive Impact against certain characters, and then you use it against, then you realize, you know, it clicks in your head a lot harder. Like, oh shit, Drive Impact on Kimberly is trash, right? Things like that. But yeah, that's a little one-off note about trying to find your character, and of course getting used to your buttons, and then just how it is, right? It's just different. And Street Fighter is just one of those games where characters are just very different. They share similarity, like you can find rule sets. Again, Ryu is a great place to start. You start realizing what the standard is. Like, most people can cancel light, you know, down mediums. You realize, oh, JP's the exception. That's the thing I want to realize when characters, you need to, that's why picking Shotos is good, because you realize what is the exception, what isn't. Like, having a cancelable heavy is like, okay, yeah, that's a thing. So if you don't have it, you're the exception. Most people can cancel down mediums. JP's the exception. You start realizing what is the norm and what is the exception. And that's when you realize your strengths and weaknesses of your character and how they're more or less going to play. Again, if you know where you stand, what you're looking for, and what your character can do, then from there you can work on what your game plan is specifically with your character. Because not everyone plays the character the same. And that's something I want to get out the way. And we'll get into part 2 of what we're going to discuss on how to use JP. Okay, I'll post it up.
1. Getting to know my FG capabilities, mind, heart, etc. to recognize that each character plays a certain way. Ghost of Solomon.
Glad to see you got
And no worries, man. Ghost of Solomon. It's useful.
Anyways, and most importantly, have fun. Yes, absolutely. Now, I'm going to discuss with you guys exactly, we're going to do a mini JP guide, as we have Ghost of Solomon asking.
Have fun.
So, I want to establish